the creativity he has. I think he does a good job helping his offensive line.
All those tight ends back there again. Nice cut back by Walker, still going. Waiting for the blocking to get there. It does. Touchdown, Seahawks.
Yeah, that game was awesome. Or was it? I don't know. We had... I need to actually pull this up. I don't know why I didn't think to have this until the very, very start. There was this great chart that showed the chances of us winning that game versus the Eagles. I have it right here. Yeah, our win probability. Basically, we dropped off at the very, very fucking end. I'm just gonna share my screen really fucking fast. Yeah, if you look here, the Eagles were winning the game, like the entire fucking game, until the very end, and then we won. It was crazy. Like the game should not have occurred. Welcome to First Kick Seahawks. This is the morning after the Eagles lost to the Seahawks on Monday Night Football, which I said it was possible if we just would run the ball and play good fundamental football, and if we tackled. And you know how we accomplished that? Well, we ran the ball, not with Charbonnet, we ran it with Walker, and surprisingly, he didn't really bounce the ball. He ran between the tackles really well, and then once you get to the point, you start making all your plays, and he fucking did that. I've been begging for him to do that all year. So thank you so much, Kenneth Walker, for finally, progressing in that area. And then the tackling, well, they sat Jamal Adams for, I get, health reasons or what have you, but at the very least, he can't tackle, and he can't, make plays in coverage anymore. And so if you're not really good at either, you should be benched. And then with Tariq Woolen, as I've said, it doesn't matter how good you are in coverage. If you can't tackle, then you can't play half of the sport. You can't play more than half of the sport. And so, as we saw, we get in Michael Jackson in there, and sure, he might get beat in coverage, but when they run to his side, he can shed blockers, and he can make tackles, and he can diagnose when to, collapse on a play and beat a bubble screen. And it was just cool to see, and I can't wait to see Devin Witherspoon come in, hopefully next week, to compete against this Titans team that we're going to be going up against, because that's Derrick Henry. But I think Derrick Henry had less than 10 yards on Sunday when carrying the ball, or maybe he played on Saturday. So it's not impossible to stop this team, especially with the way that Leonard Williams was playing. He was all over that Eagles backfield. We ran for over 100 yards. It's the first time we ran for over 100 yards since the Commanders game. It was a full team effort. And, Drew Lock, I think even Drew Lock would say it wasn't his best game, but he was put in opportunities to succeed. He was having some communication issues with Lockett, and I actually want to bring that up. Here is Drew Lock after the game being interviewed.
Game-winning drive tonight.
Oh, amazing won't do it justice. Amazing won't do it justice, but amazing also doesn't do justice. What the O-line, what DK did on that catch, what the receivers did, what Ken Walker, Zach Charbonnet did all game long, the tight ends, man. It takes a special group to rally around a guy that is coming into his second game of the year, right? Used to the same thing all year long, same cadence, same spin of the ball, everything. A team like that, not just the offense, the defense to rally around me tonight, man, that was amazing.
I hear some emotion in your voice.
Yeah. It's been a long time. I'm just blessed. Blessed with a great group of guys, a great city, great coaching staff. It's it's awesome. It's a wow.
Drew, when did you even know you were going to be playing tonight?
Oh, there's a long story going in that one. But I kept the mentality that I was going to play, regardless of what was going on, how people were looking and whatnot. I was just like, you know what, you're going to go out there and play, so just be ready to play. Found out when we got here that I was going to get the nod and roll the dice, baby. Let's go.
Take us back to the touchdown pass to Jackson. Just what was the play call? Take me through it.
Yeah. I mean, I'll remember that play call for the rest of my life, but we're breaking the huddle. I knew Jax had the one-on-one. Good reminder from Shane in the headset. I said, hey, Jax, you're one-on-one. I'm throwing you this pill. Sure enough. Gave us a one-on-one look. Corner was soft. Jax hit him with some speed. Back pylon, back box throw. Came down with it.
Again, Drew, we can see the emotion on your face. We can hear it in your voice. Can you just describe what you're feeling in your heart right now?
Yeah. It's so hard. It's so hard to describe the feeling of, not playing for so long, or at least what feels like a really long time to me. And then you sit there, you watch games, you wonder, can I do this still? I haven't been out there on the field. That's the human nature of it. You get back out there last week, and I'm like, you know what? I'm the man still. I can go do this. But then you got another test this week where I didn't know if I was going to play or not. Sure enough, I ended up playing. We're playing the Eagles tonight. And the boys around me rallied tonight. And it just, gosh, it feels so good. It feels so good. I'm so proud of everybody today.
Congratulations to you. We're all happy for you.
And I'm happy for him too. The team was pumped for him. You saw DK Metcalf after the touchdown to JSN and the game win to come up to him and shake his hand and just congratulate him on a good game. And again, like he pointed out, like it's different when you have a starting quarterback come in with different ways that he delivers the ball, different timing and stuff. And you doing all these reps with the starter, and then he goes down, and then the backup comes in. And so during the live stream, I was commenting that he and Tyler Lockett were not connecting at all, and we could even see it on the deep passes and some of the simple stuff underneath. But he kept battling, and that's one of the hardest things is timing routes. But once you start running the ball and you get those one-on-one situations and you start getting these little spot shots underneath for the quarterback, you start creating these opportunities to just keep letting him battle. And as we saw at the end there, he threw a nice bucket shot for DK Metcalf, and then he threw it again on the right side to JSN. And I'd mentioned this before, where you don't want to catch with your palms. And JSN had this beautiful catch with his fingertips. It was beautiful. It's like Jerry Rice was out there with his fingertips out there catching this ball, and it bounced, but it gave him the ability to spring it. Whereas if it was his palms, he wouldn't have had the ability to get the control back. It was a beautiful catch. Big extension of his arms. It is a shout out to Shane Waldron for enabling his quarterback and using the running game to set him up. And I kind of want to talk about how he didn't know if he was going to start before the game began. And Geno Smith was in the same attitude. The Eagles were in the same position. I'm sure the coaches were in the same position. Everyone was. And the same thing is kind of happening this week. Pete Carroll said after the game that Geno Smith should start against the Titans. And logically, he should. Everyone says. And KJ Wright mentioned it all night last night. You don't lose your job to injury unless you're Drew Bledsoe to Tom Brady. And when you watch that game last night, it's not like Drew turned into Tom Brady, but he made those great throws in the end, and he continued to battle, and he didn't throw any interceptions, but Slay wasn't there, and the DBs there have been having trouble, so he's got to continue to compete. It's only been one game. But here's my argument as to why it's a possibility that Geno Smith actually might get benched on the low. It has nothing to do with Geno Smith's performance. He might actually be the better quarterback, and we saw it against Dallas, the way he performs. And if he played against the 49ers last week, he might have been able to make it more competitive. And he played against the Eagles last night. Maybe we would have blown him out. Who knows? But now we're entering a 3-week span where we're playing against the Titans, who are not a good team. We're playing against the Steelers, who their free safety just got suspended for questionable reasons. And we're playing against the Cardinals, who are also not a good team. If we're either not going to make the playoffs, or if for some reason the Rams fall off or something and we think we're easily going to make the wild card spot, there might be a financial incentive for John Snyder and Pete Carroll to not play Geno Smith for as many games as possible and ride Drew Lock at least until the Cardinals game. And here's why. I have a link down below, courtesy of Field Goals. If you're a big Seahawks fan, you should know what Field Goals is now. The article is written by Frank Rines, and it is talking about the incentives for Geno Smith's contract in 2023. He has about $15 million worth of incentives, which means that if he performs at a certain way throughout the season, he has a possibility to make an extra $15 million on his contract because his contract is not guaranteed. So what are these incentives? What does he need to do in order to make this money? Well, sometimes it's a little hard to figure this out, but we got it pretty well listed. If he passes for more than 4,282 passing yards, he gets $2 million. And currently he's at 2,918. So unless he starts just chucking the ball everywhere, these last 3 games, he's probably not going to hit it. But it's possible if he just starts unloading it. So if you sit it for one more game, you save yourself definitely $2 million. Next one, $2 million for throwing more than 30 touchdowns. Well, he has 15 touchdowns on the year, which means he would need to throw 5 touchdowns next week, the week after, and the week after. That would be great, but if he does it, you lose $2 million. Here's the more realistic one. He can do $2 million for having a completion percentage higher than 69.755. So last year he was at about 70%. So the idea is that if he does what he did last year, he can do it. Currently he is at a completion percentage of 64.4%. Geno Smith might decide it's more beneficial for him if he's not making the playoffs to check the ball down or flat out not throw the ball and have a really high completion percentage by the end of the year, which will be above 70%. So he'll get that incentive, but we might not win any games. So where Drew Lock will take those opportunities to fling the ball down the field because he's not worried about having a 70% completion rating. You see where I'm getting at? So, and also, we can take that money and then push that to next year, that extra $2 million that we could hypothetically put into Damian Lewis or something else. And if we decide not to keep Geno Smith, or hell, if we decide to keep Geno Smith, that $31 million contract or $32 million, now that $2 million just goes into that because this will just roll over. Another part of this incentive, $2 million for a passer rating higher than 100.874. Where is his passer rating on the year? I didn't take the time to pull it up. I have his QBR, which is 89.1. Last year it was 100.9. If he decides to get his percentage up and he starts teeing off on these bad teams it is possible that he could get back to where he was last year. That's probably where the 100.874 comes from, is he was at 100.9. So if he just gets to where he was last year, he gets another $2 million incentive. And here's the final kicker. Here's the final $2 million incentive, the most likely one at this point. He can get $2 million if the Seahawks get 10 wins, or if the Seahawks make the playoffs with Geno Smith playing 80% of the snaps. 80% of the snaps. So if we get 10 wins, or if the Seahawks make the playoffs with Geno Smith playing 80% of the snaps. There's an or there. So if we get to 9 wins, he doesn't get $2 million. But if we get to 10 wins with Drew Lock playing this game, and then he starts against, the Steelers and then the Cardinals, is he playing 80% of the snaps at that point? If Drew Lock ends up playing this game, and then the Steelers, and then the Cardinals, Geno comes back, he's not playing 80% of the snaps then. That saves us another $2 million. So if we play this right and Drew Lock ends up being a good enough quarterback for these next 2 games, at least this game, but the next 2 games would be most ideal so that we can get Geno back for the Cardinals game. We could save ourselves the whole sum of his incentives deal, because that's not the full $15 million. That's only 5. 5 times $2 million is 10. What happened to the other 5? Well, in addition to all those 5 incentives, there's the bonus 5 if he hits all 5 of those. So basically, if the front office decides to fuck Geno Smith and say, we're going to start Drew Lock and your groin injury is too bad, we don't think you're good enough to play yet, even though Geno Smith thinks that he's good to go. And he probably was good to go against the Eagles. If we're being honest, he probably would have played against the Eagles if he had the say. But by putting Geno Smith in a position where he won't be able to hit his incentives, we save ourselves $15 million that will roll into next year. And like, how bad was that groin injury actually? Was it truly enough to keep him out of back-to-back games? I'm not sure. So sure, we might start him in this Titans game, technically, but don't be surprised if sometime during the middle of the week there's either a hiccup or they decide to go with a hot hand at quarterback for some bizarre reason. KJ also kind of talked about how you have like energy within the team. You know, like if the team is vibing with a certain type of quarterback, you can't pull them away from that quarterback, right? Surely. I thought the team liked Geno Smith. I thought they did. But then when you see he's always frustrated on the sidelines. He gets pissed off. Like I've described him as the kid who's playing a video game and he throws the controller. But I think he's a good gamer, right? I'm like, he's fucking gaming out there. He's a good player. I'm just not sure if he's the leader out there. I say the DK, the Metcalf's the leader out there. If Drew Lock is more relaxed and it lets the rest of the team play more relaxed, do you start Drew Lock even though he's not the better quarterback? And you let the team literally just, we're going to run the fucking ball, don't screw up Drew Lock? Save yourself the $15 million, roll over, keep Drew Lock next year and draft a quarterback. And Drew Lock is young. And I'm not a Drew Lock truther at all. I'm not saying he's the future. I'm just talking like financially speaking, because I talked yesterday about how, why would you overpay for a quarterback? And if you can save yourself the $15 million right now, and if you can continue to build in this offensive line and this running scheme and get a quarterback who can just deliver the ball for cheap, maybe we can do some fucking damage. And again, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but we've talked about how Pete Carroll used to be ruthless. When he came in originally, he got rid of like most of the roster and then got rid of those guys and just kept churning. It was the most contracts in NFL history. And then he comes into this game. He sits his most expensive defensive back. He sits his defensive rookie of the year candidate from last year. And then he, I think, sat his starting quarterback to help save money for next year. And then went out there and fucking kicked ass his old school way. Let's fucking do that again against this Titans team. I would love that. I would love that so much. Let's see. Was there anything else I wanted to bring up today before I really get into it later? I think that's it. Unless you guys have any questions for me before I skedaddle out of here. Going once. I am going twice. I am going 3 times. All right. I will see you guys around. Thank you so much for being here. Please like and subscribe. And I will probably start to look at the Titans coaching on the defense and the offensive side later today so that I can see how we might attack them. It's interesting because I love their running attack, but I don't know anything about their defense. So I want to see how we are going to plan around it, especially after the successes we had against the Eagles. I wasn't sure we were going to even attempt to run, and we did. So I will see you guys around, and thank you so much for being here. Go Hawks.